Hi everyone. So today what we're going to talk about is the climate and vegetation of North America. Really exciting stuff. After this, I want you to view this and then I want you to take the quiz over the material, kind of jot down some notes while we go through it. There will be 10 questions. It's on a Google form, so you can just answer that. I'm going to try to point out the correct responses as we go through this, and hopefully it won't take too long. Once you complete that quiz, then go in and there's another Google form. I want you to watch a couple of videos over the information that we talked about and then answer questions about that too. One is on Sequoia National Forest. I tried to find one on the temperate rainforest of the Pacific Northwest, but I couldn't find a good one, unfortunately. But if you Google it, you just see how beautiful it is if you want to watch those videos. But there are also a lot of good videos, and one that I'm going to show you is on the Florida Everglades. And then another one, I'm going to look for one on the Mojave Desert. So anyway, I just want you to kind of get a visual of different climate types in the United States and in Canada. Okay, so this map right here is the one that I'm going to be referencing throughout the presentation. You can see that it's color-coded over to the left, what is on the right. Okay, so if you notice, we share almost all climate types with Canada, with the exception of a few. Obviously, the only tropical or subtropical climates, there are none in Canada. We have subtropical down in the southeastern part of the United States, and then tropical tip of southern Florida, and then of course in Hawaii as well. That's tropical wet, and then the tip of Florida is tropical wet and dry. But notice along the border with the Great Lakes, and probably more than 50% of the border that we share with Canada, here we have the humid continental climate. That's the climate that we have here in Monticello. Then when you get into the Rocky Mountains, you have semi-arid climates that move up into Canada, and then also highland climates. Now, when you get along the Pacific Northwest, some people look at the Pacific Northwest as starting in Northern California and moving all the way up to the border of Alaska and maybe even a little bit into Alaska. But this climate, as you see, is going to be influenced by the air coming off of the waters of the Pacific Ocean and the westerlies that move in there. In California, this is a different type of climate. In California, we have a Mediterranean climate, and so look at the characteristics for that. We even share the subarctic and Arctic climates of northern parts of Canada because of Alaska. So in the Northwest, we do share many physical characteristics of climate and geography with our northern neighbor, Canada. Okay, so, and I just kind of went over all of that information. We share many of those climate types, right? Canada, of course, is much colder unless you are talking about Alaska. The United States has much more variety in our climate types just by the virtue of the fact that where we are located between the equator and the North Pole. So we're in that mid-latitude range where we're going to get more climate types. And then also America, the United States, expands such a vast territory from coast to coast. So that's going to give us a lot of different climate types. All right, so the colder climates, as I indicated, we get the Arctic climate. That's up around the Arctic Circle. It is extremely cold, so you get parts of there in northern Alaska and northern Canada in there. The winters are very long and bitterly cold, right? And the summers, they're very brief, short amount of time, and chilly. In July, the temperatures could only reach like 40 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So when you go down a little bit lower, into the higher or the lower latitudes, lower, I guess, for that area. Here it's cold with short, mild summers, right? You get vast forests of evergreen, and you also get that permafrost. That's that layer of the ground that is permanently frozen, and it might thaw during the summer, right? You also have up there in those Rocky Mountain ranges, those temperatures are colder. It's going to vary on the elevation, what that's going to be. And then in those areas too, there's not going to be much vegetation, right? Because the lack of oxygen, ample oxygen, and precipitation. Okay, so the area of North America that has more moderate climates are here in where we live, right, around the Great Lakes. So in this area here, this is going to be the majority where the population of people from Canada live. When we get into southern or subsequent chapters, you're going to see right along here is the St. Lawrence Seaway, and that's where you're going to have Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, Quebec, all of Canada's major cities. They do have some population centers over here where you have a more moderate climate too. And that's more marine west coast climate in that area. But anyway, this is a humid continental climate, and the characteristics of that, if you look up here, we've got cold winters, right? In there and warm summers. The thing about this area too is through glaciation, it's flat, and so it's really good for agriculture. So this is an area where a lot of wheat is grown and other grains. This is where we get dairy pastures and cattle grazing, a lot of livestock. So this has been very good for agriculture, even not just in the United States, but up into Canada as well. And we're going to talk about that when we get into our next chapters. But anyway, so we discussed that. Also, in northern areas, there's a lot of forests, right? There's vast forests of evergreens and deciduous trees. And this is, as I told you, this is major population areas for people in Canada. When you get into the southern regions of that area with the humid continental where we are, then you get the temperate grasslands, the prairie. And if you go east of the Mississippi River, probably east of where we are, the natural vegetation was deciduous forests, right? Lots of those. Okay, another area of moderate climates. This area right here is this is along the Pacific Northwest. Some people say that it extends down into Northern California, but it moves up along the coast of Canada and up into Alaska as well. So this is a moderate climate because it's impacted by the westerlies, right? The prevailing westerlies as the winds blow off of the Pacific Ocean and they come here. And we've talked about this before. The air is warmed during the winter because the ocean is warmer, and it's cooled during the summer. So the summers they are moderately warm, right? The winters are long and mild with rain and fog. The vegetation is mixed. It's going to depend on where it's located, right? You know, and in terms of the latitude. So the vegetation is mixed. You might have some dense forests. As a matter of fact, this is the location where you have temperate rainforest. It rains all the time there. So if you go along the coastal regions of Canada and the Pacific Northwest, you're going to see these vast forests that are very beautiful, and there's a huge effort now to preserve them. So I was looking for a video, I've watched some before, about the rainforests of the Pacific Northwest, but I couldn't find a good one. But here are some images. If you go into California, of course, you have Sequoia National Forest, and then you move up along like Seattle, Tacoma area, and you know, you get these vast forests. They get ample rainfall, so it's very, very green there. Look at the pictures on the right here. These people seem so minuscule climbing that very big tree, right? These are some giant redwoods. Okay, some other mild climates. If you go down into the southeastern part of the United States, in these southern states down here, here you're going to find humid subtropical climates, right? So we all know what Florida is like, and then you get down into the hot and humid south, right? So summers are hot, humid, and then the winters are mild and cool. They're not like they are here. They can't be very severe. The further south you go, the warmer it's going to be in the winter. Because they have a long growing season, you're going to see them able to grow like citrus fruits in Florida, like oranges. And then in Georgia, there's going to be peanuts. Also, you're going to see like the broadleaf evergreens, so palm trees and that sort of thing. But then you're also going to get some coniferous trees, pine trees, and everything else down in Florida too. Other areas, I discussed this already, that Mediterranean climate that's located in the Central Valley of California and down along the southern coast there. So moving on through those areas, it's just very moderate. It's a really nice, lovely climate. It's very similar to what you would find in the Mediterranean Sea area. So here the summers are dry, sunny, warm. The winters are mild and can be rainy. Right, but you don't get really cold winters. Your temperatures year round are between 50 and 80 degrees. My cousin lives in this area in California, and I envy her. My uncle lives down in San Diego, and it's just absolutely beautiful. In California, though, because they don't get a lot of rainfall, what they have to do is irrigate. And a lot of that water that comes to California is diverted from the Colorado River via Hoover Dam. But we will talk about that too in subsequent chapters. We always think of agriculture as the Midwest being the breadbasket of the United States. But in actuality, if you go to California, they lead the nation in many aspects of agriculture. And it's because the Central Valley here is very fertile and because the climate is just, it's very good for agriculture. Okay, we also have some very dry climates, and you can see this where the light colors are located. So this is going to be um, in these areas. Right here, all that dry area, right? And then over here too, parts of California are very dry too. So they're partly because it's in the rain shadow. The wind comes in, they lose the moisture before it hits the mountains, and then after the mountains, there's no precipitation. So you have semi-arid locations, semi-dry, and then you have desert climates, right? So the semi-dry, the semi-arid, those are in the Great Plains, parts of the northern basin. They only get about 15 inches of rain a year, right? And there's not much vegetation there. Maybe grasses and shrubs and that sort of thing. And then in the desert climates, it's in the southwestern part of the United States. So the Mojave Desert, which is located like right in here, in this region. It's very hot and dry, and it only gets about less than 10 inches of rain a year. There's cacti, desert plants, and ecosystems there. So Sonoran Desert, the Mojave Desert, those locations very, very dry. Here's an image of the Mojave Desert. If you were going to drive from Los Angeles, which is located right here, and you were going to go to Las Vegas, you would have to drive through the Mojave Desert. I want you to look at California here, and I'll see if I can do a better job of manipulating this thing here. Down here at the very tip, right there, that's where San Diego is located. And up here where there's this bay, right there, that's where San Francisco is located. If you go about halfway in between San Diego, the southern tip, and San Francisco, where the bay is up here, then you'll hit, that's where Los Angeles is. So here's the Mojave Desert, and this is what it looks like on the right with this image right here. Okay, we also have, we're very fortunate, we have Hawaii, right, and that's a tropical climate. And the tropical climates in North America are only found in Hawaii. And of course, Hawaii is not considered part of North America. It's considered part of the of Peloponnesia, but it's part of the United States, so we're going to count that here. So it's tropical. They get ample rainfall. Temperatures vary only slightly. It's about 70, 80, or 80 degrees, between the 70s and the 80s year round, right? So you can always go there, and they get a lot of rainfall. This area right here, and I'm probably going to butcher it, it's on Kauai, one of the islands in Hawaii. It's Mount Waialeala, right? It gets 460 inches of rain a year, one of the wettest locations on Earth, and it's pictured here to the right. I couldn't find like a documentary of it or any information on a video, but you could go, if you just Google it, you could see video footage of it, and it's just absolutely spectacular. If you go down to Florida also, that's a tropical wet and dry climate, and we're going to look at a video of the Everglades. The Everglades are this huge drainage basin for Florida. It's about 4,000 square miles, and it's got a vast ecosystem as well. And this is an image of the Everglades. And to the right over here, it shows you just how expansive that area is, right? Basically drains from Lake Okeechobee all the way down to the Florida Keys. Okay, because of the location where we are subject to severe storms, right? A lot of the most common form is frontal precipitation. So we get that. The reason for it is because we get the very cold air coming down from Canada and the warm air coming up from the Gulf of Mexico. Also because of the jet stream that comes across the country. So in the location where we live, we get these severe storms in through here, right? We get tornadoes, as it says here, thunderstorms, blizzards. We do not get hurricanes, but we can get flooding and drought. They can get the hurricanes, of course, down in through this location and along the coast of the east coast of the United States. All right, so from here, go ahead and take your quiz and then take the video quiz over this section. Thanks for listening.